We're going to talk about fishing line. I hear a lot of comments, see a lot of comments, I'm sorry, about what pound test line to use. And I think the vast majority of you guys are not thinking of fishing line in the proper context. Usually it goes something like this. Well, should I use 12 pound test instead of 17 because I feel like I get more bites because my lake is heavily pressured and maybe the fish are seeing my line, so forth. In my opinion, and basically the way I think about fishing line, it has nothing to do with the bass seeing the line. I don't care. Like, let me slow you down. Let me slow your thought process down a little bit. Look at this crankbait. Matter of fact, let's just take a worm. I've been flipping a worm some. Where's my worm at? I've been flipping a worm around today. All right. Let's say I got this on 25 pound test line. I think this is 20, but say I got it on 25 pound test. I'm not worried about the bass somehow looking at that line, and for some reason we tend to think they don't see that big wire hook hanging out the side of the bait. So when I'm thinking about fishing line, it has nothing to do with the fish seeing the line. My thought process when I'm talking about or choosing my fishing line for various techniques, you see I got like 7-8 rods out on the deck right now, and they all have probably different pound test lines on there, or at least 3 or 4 different variations pound test. It has to do with what makes the bait perform correctly. So let's take, for instance, this. I'm throwing a buzz bait. It doesn't do that well with mono. It doesn't cast the same. It's harder to bring it up to the surface on a long cast. If one bites it out, I make a throw it 20 yards, 30 yards down the bank, and they bites it way out there. Mono's not going to be the best option to get a good hook set. Braid has no stretch. Every little manipulation I make with the rod tip, you can see it and feel it in the bait. So I can make my bait do whatever I want to with it because I have no stretch in my line. Look at another setup I got here. I got a chatterbait on, this is a 1/2 ounce chatterbait, and I got it on, this is 17 pound test fluorocarbon. Well, if I tried to throw 10 pound test with a 1/2 ounce bait, eventually I'm probably gonna make a cast. I know you've done this. You go to make a cast and whew, your bait keeps selling on out. So I don't put it on small line. There's no reason to, even though I'm, maybe you're fishing in a heavy structure or like grass or something. Obviously 10 pound test wouldn't work, but it has nothing to do with the fish seeing the line. It's always about things like keeping the bait on the bottom, reducing or enhancing the action. That's what I'm thinking about with line choices. So think of your line as a tool to help you do what you're trying to do, accomplish the goal, make the bait, be able to present the bait right. That's what you want. That's the reason you want to use different style lines, fluorocarbon, mono, or braid, which is the 3 that we mostly use. Make sure you're using the right line to help you present the bait correctly, and the right line that helps your bait move perfectly in the water column. Maybe you want to keep it on the bottom. Maybe you're trying to keep it up higher. Maybe it's a top water and you're trying to make it stay more buoyant. Choose your line. Think like that when you're choosing your line choices. A good instance would be, let's talk about if we're just throwing some light line techniques, shaky heads, drop shots, so forth. It just doesn't work good with 20 pound test line. It just doesn't. It doesn't. You can try it. You can't cast it right. The line's so big and bulky and stiff, especially if you're talking about fluorocarbon, that it's even hard to throw. You'll backlash a lot. Your line is a tool to help you present that bait properly. So I'll downsize to, I very seldom go below 8. Sometimes I will use 6 pound test, but very seldom I'll go below 8 pound test. 8, 10, 12 is probably when I'm going to throw a drop shot on. Occasionally like 15, occasionally. But even then, the line gets bulky and the bait doesn't sink quite as good, especially with a light sinker. So I don't, it just doesn't work. You can't present the bait correctly. Let's think about, we talked about the buzz bait, the reason I use braided line on that guy. Fluorocarbon is something I like to use like on chatterbaits. I'll use it on a spinnerbait. I got a spinnerbait tied on today. I've been catching quite a few fish on spinnerbait and a buzzbait. You know, why wouldn't I throw braid on a spinnerbait? Well, that's real easy. Number one, a spinnerbait is a bait that where when they fish do what we call like a swoosh at it, braid's super sensitive, and if you throw it on braid, you're gonna feel it when he just starts to open up his mouth up behind it. You're gonna feel it, and you're probably gonna overreact, set the hook, not catch the fish. It's just not the best bait to throw straight braid on because you're gonna overreact with it quite a bit. So I like to throw it on fluorocarbon. The other thing is, usually with the spinnerbait, I'm trying to make little short, accurate casts under these laydowns and around underhanging trees and so forth, and braid is just going to come off the reel extremely fast. Braid is great for making very long casts, but for making extremely accurate casts, it's not the best line to use because it exits the reel so fast. Fluorocarbon is going to come off a little bit more control. Mono comes off the most control because it doesn't coil quite as badly. But the fluorocarbon is just going to allow me just to present the bait better. It's just going to be a lot easier to cast around. It's going to let the fish get the bait a little bit better. So he's got it. I feel it. He's got a bait. Crack. I got him. So think about it that way. Always crankbaits. Crankbaits is a perfect example. For me, crankbaits 10, 12, and then maybe 15. I'll use 15 if I think I'm going to get hung up a lot around wood structure or something like that. But predominantly it's going to be 10 or 12 pound test line because that's what cast the bait will. I use a lot of small crankbaits. I think I had one tied on in here. This is 12 pound test. You see, this is just a small bait. It's flat sided. When you try to cast it, it's going to catch a lot of wind. This is not a very heavy bait. So if you try to throw it on 17 or 20 pound test, you can't cast it that far. Especially with fluorocarbon, 20 pound test with a light bait, you're going to get a lot of backlashes because it's very coily. So I use 10 or 12 pound test. It's less material. It's more pliable. So I don't get as many backlashes. It casts a little bit better, a little bit more effortlessly. Ooh, that was hard to say. Effortlessly. All right. And that's why I use it. It actually has nothing to do with the diving depth. Usually with a small crankbait like this, it's not diving that deep and the cast is so short anyway that it just doesn't really matter that much. So I'm going to throw it on 10, 12 pound test line almost all the time. So realistically in my boat, what I use the most of is probably going to be 8, 10, 12, and then I'm all the way up to 17 or 20 pound tests. So when it comes to fluorocarbon or mono, braid, there's only two, well, there's 3, I'm sorry. 15 for my spinning reels, 30 pound tests for like topwaters, frogs, buzzbaits, like casting topwaters, and then I'm going to use 50 for flipping. Bring him out of there. All right, so think about your fishing line as a tool. Don't worry about the fish. They're not going to look at the line and then skip the hooks that you got hanging out there. If you think they're seeing the line, you got to get rid of your hooks too. And if you get rid of your hooks, you're not catching any fish at all. But it does make a difference. Line size does matter. All right, it does matter, but think of it more as a tool to help you present your baits right. All right, I'm gonna go back to fishing and catch me some more fish, bro.